I'm Amy, sex educator, sex and relationship coach, and sex shop owner.
And I'm April, VP of an international high-end pleasure products company and boss queen sex toy mogul. We're best friends who make our own rules about who we are as sexual beings.
With everything from how to be a badass in the bedroom to top tips for bringing your relationship to the next level, we have something just for you.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.
You are listening to a pleasure podcast. For more from our sex podcast collective, visit pleasurepodcasts.com.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Wow. I just want to say, holy shiitakes. We have been on one in terms of recording. We've recorded a lot of awesome episodes.
We've been on a recording bender.
A recording bender. And yes, there's been wine involved, so maybe a wine bender, but recording bender. And so many awesome episodes. This one, though,
this was the grand finale.
This one was incredible. And I know that we say this often, but we actually said to the speaker at the end of it, this amazing human
guest that we've had, yes, that you've known.
I've known. I did a Somatic training with her, and we said to her, we try to keep the calls, the recordings around 40 minutes, and it went almost like an hour because there's so much information. She's relatable, and we had so many questions. We were like, how does this work? Where do I do this? It was just, she blew our minds, and that's actually kind of hard to do these days. And I know that, I don't want to name names of who blows our mind and who doesn't, but we have a lot of great speakers, and a lot of what we hear is stuff that we kind of know little details about. I learned so much. I
did too. Well, I've only heard people drop the vulva mapping term, and I don't want to go into too much detail because we do a lot of explaining and kind of talk about what vulva mapping is on this episode. It's so cool though. It's so cool. I want my vulva mapped.
Oh, we're getting our vulvas mapped.
The topography within.
April, she's like, can you give me a printout?
And I'm like, is there a printout with where the city highlights are?
Yeah, the city highlights. Where's my capital?
I know.
Yeah, and it's everyone. If you're listening to this, isn't just for if you have a vulva. This isn't just if you admire vulvas. She talks a little bit also because she does work with.
If you have access to a vulva, right?
There's just penis mapping. There's prostate mapping. There's
genital mapping.
Genital mapping in general. So much to learn. I am completely wowed. So stay tuned. We'll tell you more about her in a second and read the bio as well. I forgot to ask her about Uberlube too. I know that she's a familiar because when I did Somatica, I brought a sample of Uberlube for everyone that was there. I don't know why I didn't have them bring bottles to everyone, but I forgot to ask her about that. What she thinks.
We will, because she's coming back. She's coming to Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
She's probably teaching a class. Likely. There's a 85% chance. So check Pure Pleasure's website, purepleasureshop.com, to see their events page and look if Dolly Josette is teaching a class on all the things. And there'll be details on there. It could be in mid-May.
Mid-May of 2019. It's, like April said, it's an 85% chance. So right now, if you're like, we don't know who she is, we don't really give a fuck what you're talking about. Just know that when you listen to the episode, there's an 85% chance that you're going to be like, I really want to go to that workshop. I want to work with her. I want to learn more about vulva mapping. She is incredible.
And if you're doing vulva mapping after you listen to this episode, you want to check out some Uberlube too. It could help you kind of reach your fingers around the vulva internally, externally, or just lube up your hair if it's a little bit frizzy that day, like or your head if you're bald, if you have no hair.
Ooh,
you can just
shiny.
kind of make it nice and soft.
Well, and the vulva and the penis and all kinds of bits, they're mucous membranes, right? So mucous membranes are moist areas that like to be touched with moist. So we take a dry hand or a dry dildo or a dry penis and we touch these mucous membranes. We without having moisture on it, it's frictiony. So we want moisture. So even when I'm using my hand on my external vulva, even if I have vaginal lubrication, or anytime I'm touching a penis, or definitely when I'm touching an ass, I have Uberlube handy. And you know one thing I love about it? It's a pump top. So I could be in action and then I just reach over and do a little pump and then my hand is nice and moist, or I can put it on body parts, and it's so easy to use. It never gets sticky. It's long lasting, no flavor, no scent. It's incredible.
I even have pre-applied it before hot tub sesh, and it actually helps last internally.
You banged under the water?
Yes.
Did you get a stid after?
No, maybe a little. It felt a little itchy,
Yeasty,
like
yeasty.
UTI. It did help with a
Were you
little
in a public
friction.
hot tub?
No, private only. Check out uberlube.com, and they are giving our listeners, because they love you and me and all of our listeners so much,
They're giving 10%
off and free shipping.
Free shipping, yeah. If you go to the website, uberlube.com, you use code shameless sex in all caps. That's right, Mom. I got the coupon codes right.
No, it's not you that has a problem with the coupon codes. It was me.
Nah, we both do
But I'm shamelessly admitting that right
My
now.
mom was like, you gotta get a handle on that. Then yes, you get 10% off. You also get free shipping. Go check it out. If you're going to buy a whole bunch of other sex toys too, you can go. We actually have, so there's Pure Pleasure, which we absolutely love, that Dolly might be teaching. Go check out purepleasureshop.com. We also love another sex shop called Blue Boutique, which is in Salt Lake City, where we just taught a sold out workshop.
And they had awesome shirts that said SLUT, slut.
Yeah,
But
for
it's
SLC,
Salt Lake City, Utah.
yeah.
I love those shirts.
Yep.
They have, their website's cool. They've got a lot of the products that we talk about in our podcast.
They're doing workshops now.
They're doing a lot of workshops. We're going to be back there in August teaching more for Blue Boutique.
We're going to do, I think, in August of 2019, I think we're going to do blowjobs and brunch.
Yep.
And then something around orgasms for all.
Eat your O's. Get your orgasms on.
That one will be for female identified folks only, the blowjob one, I think. And if you're like, that's bullshit, why is only female identified folks that learn about blowjobs? We're teaching in Salt Lake City, everyone. Keep in mind, we're going to Utah. And then the night before, I think we're doing orgasm one, but that's way later on down the road. But they are also offering you a coupon code on their website. This is only on their website. It doesn't apply in store. So you have to go to blueboutique.com. And then if you use the coupon code shameless20 in all caps, 20 is 20. It's not spelled out. So shameless in all caps 20, you get 20% off on their website. And you can buy all kinds of goodies.
I mean, for real, basically we're just trying to save you all money on things that you probably want access to. So
yep.
Kind of check it out. Now's your time. Maybe you got an extra tax. This comes out when taxes get returned. Maybe you want to buy some sex toys with your taxes.
Or you got screwed in the taxes and now you need some coupon
And now
codes.
you want to get screwed by yourself with some things.
Yeah, I need to go rub it out because the IRS screwed me. Yeah.
For real, though.
Yeah, go check it out. Go check out blueboutique.com. Go check out uberlube.com. We love these humans. Okay, so I'll read the bio in a second, but before I tell you all about Dolly, I want to also let you know, again, you're like, why do we care? We don't know anything yet because we haven't listened. This is amazing, amazing information. And Dolly, in fact, is actually giving away a beautiful prize for a contest that we're having. This is coming out April 16th of 2019, starting May 1st. That's Masturbation May. We're having a self-pleasure contest / experiment where people will do 30 days of masturbation.
It's a challenge.
A challenge, that's the word. 30 days of masturbation. Masturbation, actually, if you didn't know, I think it means something kind of negative, like to soil your hand. So we'll probably say it's Masturbation May. We're doing 30 days of self-pleasure. We're doing a contest. You'll learn more if you go to our Instagram at Shameless Sex Podcast, our Instagram there. And people can participate anonymously. You're not going to be like diddling yourself on Instagram, but will be a way for you to participate by just having your own self-practice as a means of learning more about what your body likes, having more orgasmic potential and pleasure, etc. So there's a lot of good stuff there. And Dolly is giving away a session for someone that participates in it, and you'll find out how you can actually win on our Instagram. And you will get a session. It can either be, if you live in the LA area, it's an in-person session, or if you don't, it's an online session. And that could be either a Somatica or Sexological Bodywork session. It's a 2-hour session that is valued at $450. After you hear her, so again, bear with us. After you listen to the episode, you'll be like, I want that. We don't want you to participate just to win things, though. We want you to participate because you actually really want to
join the shameless sex revolution.
Join the revolution. Yeah, join the revolution. And Dolly also, which she didn't share in this, but if you are in the LA area or you're going to be in the LA area and you want to learn more about what she talks about in Sex Bod, she's producing and hosting, she's not teaching, a Sex Bod or Sexological Bodyworker certification program. So you can do the training for personal growth. They're taking applications right now. Go to sexbodla.com. And then there's also, the beginning part is an online training, so you don't even have to be there. That starts on October 25th. 2019. And then the in-person training starts in January 2020. So again, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Listen to this episode. If you're like, I want to be a part of that, either for my own practice or to work with people, go check out sexbodla.com and then you can learn more. Are you ready for the bio? Oh, what about the vino thing?
Well, this is kind of sad news because
everyone's crying.
I know.
Tiny
well,
violin.
We love margins so much, and apparently everyone else does too because they sold out already. So if you didn't get the shipment that we've been talking about, sorry, you have to wait till June. The next shipment comes out June 2019.
But how do they find out?
You have to go to marginswine.com and sign up for the newsletter. It's really easy. There's no spam. And then you hopefully will also get access to the next shipment of wine. And remember, Margins Wine it's a Santa Cruz local winemaker, and it's underrepresented varietals from underrepresented regions, meaning the bottles are hard to come by and not expensive at all. So go to marginswine.com and sign up for the newsletter. Do it right. Meow.
Or meow.
Okay, let's do the bio. Let's tell people who Dolly is, because Dolly Josette.
So Dolly Josette, you'll learn more about how I personally know her when you listen to the podcast. But Dolly Josette is a certified sexological bodyworker. You'll learn what that is too. A somatic sex educator and relationship and intimacy coach committed to seeing her clients relish in love, intimacy, and perpetual fireworks. I'm sold already. Her specialties are connection, acceptance, and relaxing her clients' nervous systems so they can begin to unwind layers of shame, routine, pain, or numbness. Dolly teaches embodiment and attunement in a nurturing and playful approach that helps her clients prioritize pleasure and expression through self-acceptance, positive body image, movement, breath, and touch. Check out Dolly in May 2019's issue of Cosmo. So when this releases, it's probably already on the shelves, right?
I think so.
Learn more at Pleasure Muse. That's pleasuremuse.com. Chip, are you ready?
You know, I'm going to take a deep breath and tell you that I've been a little stressed out lately.
Have you tried meditation?
No, I actually have. And that's the only thing that's been keeping me sane.
I have talked about this in many podcasts before, and I know that you and I have talked about this, but it is a game changer. And what kind of meditation are you doing?
Well, I started meditating using YouTube videos, but we talked about this Calm app, I think like 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And it's the perfect app to help you, basically on your phone, to help you access hundreds of different meditations that are guided 5 minutes, 12 minutes. And that's helping me not only have better sex, because sex is almost a meditation. You're breathing, you're using your
Gotta be embodied.
But I am not, you know how high of a frequency I operate at
I mean, I think all of our listeners know.
Daily basis. And meditating, I sit in bed, turn on the Calm app, I open it up, turn on whatever one that I want to kind of access for that day. And there's like rivers in the background and birds chirping, and it's so nice. And
I love the voice of the person that is leading the meditations too, because you know how you have some of the ones where you're like, because you have great podcast voice, right? You have to have great, yoga teacher voice and great meditation teacher voice, and they're different for everyone, but it also sounds authentic to me. So I feel you on that.
I'm telling you, and I tell people this every day, meditation saved my life. I have a lot of strong friends that are like, I don't know, my life feels like it's falling apart. I'm like, have you tried meditation? Like, I don't have time for that. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You don't have 5 minutes in the morning before you make your coffee to just lay down in your bed, and you can be warm under your covers or sit up in your bed and just turn on an app before you check your emails.
Yep.
Before you turn on music.
Definitely before is what works for me. Like if I wake up and I do all my things, I'm like, I'll meditate after. Then I don't get to it. Although the app helps me to get to it more so than if I try to sit down and meditate on my own. Because I do meditate sometimes on my own without an app. But if I already have the busyness going on, using the app actually helps me to get in there because there's someone else assisting me in the journey.
Isn't it funny that we get stressed out about sitting still without sleeping for 5 minutes? Like I think about that when I drink, after I drink my coffee, I'm like, I don't need to meditate right now. I'm fine. I'm going to start my emails.
I feel great. I am on fire.
I'm like, no, that's fucked up, April. Take a minute. Like,
Chill
let's
out.
do this. Do it for your own sanity. You have nothing else but what you are listening to right then. A guided meditation.
I will say also sometimes meditation in the moment, we sometimes in the moment while we're meditating, we feel the benefits of it. But a lot of what I feel is in the long run. Like you're saying, it helps me, by the more I practice meditation, be more connected in sex, be more connected to my body. And then it helps me when I'm in stressful situations to be more calm and collected, keeps me more balanced. So I might not even notice it in the moment, although sometimes I do. Sometimes when I sit and meditate, it's helping to work with what is present, but there's long-term effects and there's studies that prove that.
Well, and
the Buddha.
This Calm, the app, it says different feelings like anxiety, stress at the top, and you can kind of pick, or you don't have focus.
Yeah.
I used the focus one before my big meeting yesterday because it's the end of the quarter when we're recording this, and I had a meeting yesterday and I used it, and I think it helped me focus. It was 5 minutes. It was cool. So,
and this is just last part of our
meditation
tangent, is couples could do. You have a partnership, and people are like, "What should partners do together?" This is funny. My partner has actually complained many times that we don't meditate together anymore. Part of it is because he likes to meditate for 20 to 30 minutes. And I'm now more of like a 10 to 15 minute kind of person. So, he doesn't want to be disturbed when I get up. But anyways, this is something where people can do together. Like we can connect next to each other without actually talking, especially about logistics and small talk. And I honestly, when my partner meditated next to each other and then had sex right after, our sex has been fucking awesome. Like I kind of miss doing that. So maybe I'll start meditating with him more often. But anyways, tangent. So listeners, if you want to learn more about Calm, right now, Shameless Sex listeners, they get 25% off of a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/shameless sex. That's CALM.com/shameless sex. They get unlimited access to all of Calm's content today at calm.com/shameless sex. That's including Matthew McConaughey reading you a bedtime story in his sexy voice.
right. I'm going to stop stressing and try to get my Calm on.
I think that wine isn't always the answer, Chip.
No, not in the morning.
No. Well, it depends on the morning.
I mean, yeah, that's true. Little harrow dog.
Only when it's margins. All right, let's dive in. As promised, we'll finally shut up and get the podcast going.
All right, I'm ready for it.
All right, everyone, it is episode time. And gosh, I say this every single time. This is a special one. This one is extra special for a different reason than past episodes. For me, I was in my Somatica training, where it was a sex and relationship coaching, somatic sex and relationship coaching training. It was in San Francisco, 2016. That was a hard year too. Jeez. Holy, I don't even know.
One of my hardest years ever.
Was that your divorce year?
Yes.
Oh my God. That was my partner fell in love with someone else who's going to leave me for them year. And I got pregnant.
That was a weird cosmos year. I think there was something in the stars. Yeah. I'm not kidding. I read something on it.
Didn't Trump get elected that year?
No. Well, yes.
Yeah.
I was in Thailand while he was elected.
That was what happened. It's Trump's fault. Okay, just kidding. If you love Trump, it's not Trump's fault. Sorry. Anyways, but Dolly was in the training and we were in the training together. And so I got to know her there. And it's a very intimate training where we're learning how to work with clients, and it's very experiential. And so we do exercises where we're literally like seducing each other and spanking each other, and et cetera, in consensual ways. So I got to know Dolly on a very personal level in a really beautiful way. And I'm really excited to have her on the show. If you hadn't heard Emily from Sex with Emily, she was also in our Somatica training with Dolly, Emily, and I. Dolly's been on her show, and Emily's show is, April and I always say great thank yous because that's where we got our start from going on her show. So, Dolly, I'm super excited to have you here. Welcome to Shameless Sex.
Well, thank you. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy to meet April.
Oh, yes. You get to meet her over video from afar.
Yes.
So let's start with telling, because listeners are probably like, I mean, what is a sexological bodyworker? But before we do that, before we define what it is, if you could share a little bit about your story, how did you get to where you are today to do the sex and relationship coaching, so the sexological bodywork, and then maybe you can tell listeners what is sexological bodywork?
I have this tendency to continue to reinvent myself. I mean, I was a TV producer, and then when I married my second husband, we were trying to get pregnant. My body wasn't cooperating. And so I left that. I was trying to get really healthy. I opened up a colon hydrotherapy business. It was part of my just getting back to health.
Is that colonics?
Colonics.
I've done colonics before. Love it. Sorry to interrupt you. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page.
Yeah,
You know that.
Totally that. Well, there wasn't any place in our area. And I was just getting so into holistic health. And my husband and I joked about opening this business for a long time, but I just needed to not have the stress of being a TV producer. So the opportunity came up and I opened it. And I learned so much about bodies, and I just realized how good I was calming people down. I mean, you're going into these intimate parts, right? Mm-hmm. And you want people to relax and everything. Okay, so one of our naturopath doctors wrote this book on how to prepare your body for pregnancy. And one chapter was dedicated to men, and they talked about prostate massage. And so my husband said, I'm a little curious about this. So he sent us to one of his colleagues who could teach me how to give a prostate massage. So date night, my husband and I are going so that I can learn how to do a prostate massage. And she became my teacher. She's my mentor, Ellen Heed. And she's a sexological body worker. And she said, Dolly, you're just a natural with the body. You should consider being a sexological body worker. And again, for many months, we joked about this, like, oh yeah, Dolly, being a sexological body worker, isn't that hysterical? And then I had another miscarriage. And then I finally said, fine, if we're not going to use sex for procreation, what else is there? Mm-hmm. What else can we learn? Because we have a whole huge life ahead of us. And we have great sex. It was both of our second marriages. And it was really important to us that was part of our relationship. And so I didn't even know if I was going to do it professionally. I just said, let's see what else we can learn. And if I decide I want to be professional, then I'll move forward. So it all started with a prostate massage.
Oh, thank you, prostate.
Love the prostate.
And then and you ended up discovering that you didn't just want to do it at home with your husband, that you actually really did have a knack for and enjoy providing these offerings to other people.
I did. And with Sexological Bodywork, there's a lot of really great boundaries, really honors the body. It's very different than our somatica practice. But what I found, and why I ended up doing the training with you, is because a lot of people aren't quite yet ready to get on the massage table. They're quite not ready to discover and look at their body. They're dealing with so many other things. You've spoken a lot on your shows that I've listened to about shame and all of these issues. But a lot of couples were starting to come to me, and they wanted all of this help with their intimacy and connection. And sexological body work isn't necessarily the avenue for that. You can do more of an embodied counseling, but the work that we do in somatica, so I kind of flip hats. So I can kind of do somatica on some sessions, and then when I'm a sexological body worker, when we need to really get into what is your body telling you? How can we unfold some trapped pain or find some new pleasure routes? And then, of course, we deal with tons of consent, tons of boundary work with sexological body work. And so they kind of overlap, but there's just some different boundaries.
Mm-hmm. So in my understanding, sexological bodywork, and maybe you can define it in a deeper way from your perspective or understanding, it's would you call it hands-on sexual healing, or would you even call it hands-on erotic massage with a aim at healing and or learning? Or can you talk more about that?
Yeah. As a sexological body worker, it's always one-way touch. So when we do work on genitals, always have gloves on. So it's this idea that we can work hands-on and hands-in. So we can work on pelvic floor. Now, can a client get excited and turn on? It's about their excitement and their discovering their pleasure pathways. It's not about us bringing in eroticism. So we leave our eroticism at, we don't bring that in. And the clients that I like to have come into me, I don't take clients who are like one and done. Mm-hmm. What excites me is about the educational curve and the arc. So somebody comes into me and they say, I was shamed for watching pornography with my last girlfriend, and I really want to develop confidence with getting into my body and being more embodied, because then I got into a routine of one night stands, and I want to do sex differently. I want my next girlfriend to have a different experience. I want to have a different experience. So then I'll go back and forth from our Somatica to Sexological Bodywork. And then when we're ready to get on to do body work on massage table, it's about somatic learning. So what somatic learning is, it's kind of like a soma that's like of the body. When we do different things from genital mapping, I like to say we say it, name it, claim it, and feel it. For our bodies to actually really start to learn what they want, you have to feel it. And when we think we know anatomy, until you are touching and your finger is on a spot and you're saying, these are your vestibular bulbs, and you're breathing into it. This is your fourchette. This is, your clitoral shaft, all these different things. And women are saying, what? A clitoral shaft? A fourchette? What are all these things?
I don't know what a fourchette is. What's a fourchette? Is it bruschetta?
A French ordering at a French restaurant.
They have tomatoes on it.
Please, may I have a fourchette?
Basil?
Yeah. I love that. With a lot of juicy sauce on it, please. So what that is when you get right at the vaginal opening. So right at the introitus, if you push down, there's a little divot there. And that's your fourchette.
I think I've had some good orgasms from some fourchette.
Oh yeah. Well, you're probably tapping into your perineal sponge too, but there's just a little divot right there, and it has a name. But some people, I think it was in my sexological body work, one of my male colleagues, he was working on me. He said, I want to teach you this part of you. And I didn't even know that. And I have this little divot in there. I've never played with my little divot, my little fourchette. So it's this idea that sexological bodywork, we can bring you to an erotic place, but it's really about a pathway to embodiment.
That is really cool. And genital mapping, which is even more interesting to me because number one, I love regular maps. So I can imagine that the topography of the vulva meaning everyone's different, right?
An app for that? Like, do we have GPS now for the vulva?
I don't know, but maybe we need to make one. Yeah, we need to develop that.
Well, Dolly, you're the GPS.
Yes.
Dolly, GPS. I love it. Well, I always say X marks the spot. Like, we're going to map your body, and then within your vulva, we're going to find the spots that really are yours. Because women, some of their erectile tissue is more developed than others.
So that's what vulva mapping is. Pretty much, it's like person on person development of what their vulva or genitals, in any case, is. What is their, what was the word? Bruschetta. No, bruschetta. Bruschetta. So, and this has been fourchette. Yeah. This has been something that we've lightly talked about on an episode prior. And even, I think it's gaining a lot of excitement and there's been a lot of, even Cosmo, right? You said Cosmo interviewed you about vulva mapping, which is super exciting. So what about vulva mapping and genital mapping is kind of that can be life-changing. And can you tell us a little bit more about that? I'm dying to know.
Well, what's amazing about vulva mapping is an unfolding process that can be seen as erotic integration. So if you start to develop these different points from learning agency, learning the anatomy, having the somatic learning, looking to see if you have genital amnesia, any pain, potential for pleasure, any restriction, any tenderness, while you're developing a common language for these parts. What we like to do is just really get the woman to be able to feel super relaxed. But then she really starts to know what to ask for. And even though I offer a mirror to many of my clients, I like to do it more on a second session unless there's something I really need to show them, because I like it to be a felt experience. Because since we're somatic sexological body workers, we want your body to feel. And when you can feel, you start to create new neural pathways. Many women can sometimes just get the mirror down there and then they start to have immediate judgment. And then we're having a whole nother conversation. There is a time for that in vulva mapping, but sometimes in the first session, I don't necessarily offer that unless I really need to show them something. But we talk about the difference of colors or engorgement or a little mirror work and then some more mirror work at home, because then they're going to have a lot of homework. So once we get into the genital mapping to discover their erogenous zones, if there's any remediation or pain or restriction that we need to heal, so we have the potential for healing, or once they start to learn some new pathways, then they got to go home and they have to have some mindful masturbation, and then they can talk with their boyfriends or girlfriends and teach them about it. And then I'd like to do another mapping with their partner if possible.
So if let's say someone's had an episiotomy, or for instance, I had my left labia, is that majora?
Your majora.
Majora was ripped in a menorah. So was torn in half and I had stitches. So do you kind of work through like the trauma that, like, I haven't really dove into that area, and I'm not trying to turn this about like into my thing, but I'm just
curious. But it's really I'm so glad you shared that. I didn't know that about you.
Now you do.
I do. No, but that's exactly it. Is there scar tissue? So we actually are dealing with scar tissue. So we hold in our pelvic floor from something like a rip, from something I've heard some of you ladies talk about the whole in the cervix. Oh my gosh, why am I not thinking of the name? The contraception that
the IUD.
The IUDs.
Yeah.
I've never had an IUD. But what I've heard you speak on your podcast before. So some of the pain or trauma or the holding of old things.
Post-abortion. What about
abortion?
Or the episiotomies, which are always done a lot of times in pregnancy during childbirth, which it's one of the most common surgeries, I think.
So what happens is when we go in there, and there's like a true methodology, like I have 12 steps to it, but there are long steps because I go step by step. We're dealing with consent, one step at a time, really having the woman feel into it, breathe into it, let me know her pleasure meter on a scale of 1 to 10, how much pleasure potential, because right now she's not aroused. So it's the potential, like, oh, that could feel good, or I don't feel your finger there. Is your finger even there, Dolly? Or, ooh, that kind of hurts me. But so as we're touching it, so with you, with that cut, you might not feel as much sensation in that area as another area. But then that's where we bring in our Sexological Bodywork magic tool is castor oil. Castor oil has ricinoleic acid in it, and it's an anti-inflammation. So it actually can just really heal the tissues and bring more sensation back and more lubrication back also.
Someone told me you can put castor oil, this is a total side note, on your eyebrows to help them grow faster too.
Yes.
Life hack.
Life hack.
I've always seen castor oil. I'm like, what is that used for? I actually did hear that you can put castor oil on, because I used to get cysts on my Bartholin's gland. If you don't know what Bartholin's gland is, it's an internal gland that's responsible for vaginal lubrication, like that silky clear fluid. And I have one that was kind of blocked and gets cysts, and they would say if you put castor oil on. But the interesting thing is, like, I would have to put it. It's pretty far external. It's like inside of me. So anyways, it's good to know more of like the science behind castor oil.
Well, so you can massage it. Mm-hmm. You can do castor oil packs if you have something external. Women that I've worked on with C-section scars. I mean, I've attempted to do this one client. She came in recently, and we actually have to go back to do a whole vulva mapping because we had the intention of it, but the whole session was about her scar. Because as soon as I touched her scar, the flood works, emotions, anger, all of these things like came out, and we just had to be with it. Mm-hmm. And so when you touch, because the body creates scar tissue, it like doesn't know that it's not still being under attack. So it's like there, like bracing itself, right? And so then as we're kind of massaging it and being with it, then it can start to just let go. Just start to unwind. So if I feel a pain spot in a woman and I can just watch her body, I'm always watching. And if she just flinches, if she breathes, if she does something, I'll just check in with her. And then if it's too much pressure, I might just pull back my finger a little bit and we're just going to be with it. It could just be several minutes. And then maybe I'll just do a little rotation of my finger. And then she'll take a breath usually. And then you can just usually after that breath, you can start to feel it unwind. You can actually feel it unwinding under your finger, and she will start to feel it too. And so what you're doing with that castor oil and that presence is whatever physiological pain, emotional, energetic holding that we're having there, things will start to release, and many emotions have shown up on my massage table.
Is vulva mapping just external then? Is it, or is it internal to you? Do G's
internal?
Internal. Okay, all of the above. And so like surround the cervix, anything internal. Yeah.
Yes. And again, I just like to reiterate, because I like to schedule like 2 or 3 hour sessions for these. But just depends on what shows up. Will depend on if we can go internal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I would imagine that you're just not like, okay, it's been 20 minutes. Let's get inside there.
Yeah. It depends on how we just interact. Yeah.
I wonder, well, because the body sort of holds, not even trauma, but you talk about crygasms, Amy, in the past too. I wonder if certain things are triggered, like a certain touch, because you're holding on to certain aspects of pain, or I don't know, not even pain. Like if that scar, I'm just wondering what would happen if that scar that I have on my leg, it's so interesting to think about. I've never thought about it. And then the difference between this crygasm or this, this laughgasm, and the different things your body actually does once you tap into these things that it's held on to for so long. Could that be a difference between an orgasm or a climax, or I don't know. Is there a difference of reaching these spaces of climax, orgasm, relief, crygasms?
Yeah, it just depends on what's happening. I think sometimes when you have a crygasm, I definitely have had them. There's been a little more intimacy with my husband at the time, just super intimate, or something happens, or we've just gone through something, or it's been an all-day marathon or weekend of sex, and then it's just like this huge release, and it's just a different kind of release. But I like what you're saying, and I think it's really interesting. I'm not sure about that. If like we're actually tapping into that held emotion and then something comes out, I would not be surprised. Because if we're touching it and then women are actually narrating their stories to me, I will touch something and somebody will just say something like, I haven't thought about that forever. And stories will come up as I'm touching certain parts of them. So why would it not be the same if you are releasing during an orgasm or orgasmic climax?
I would imagine. So I imagine your sessions, they don't really, as I'm assuming, so they don't have goals necessarily, right? It's like learning and healing. It's not orgasm, it's not climax, right? And I guess maybe you can define the difference between those two. So because I think a lot of listeners are so used to having erotic touch that is aiming towards something, right?
Right. Well, some women do come in. Like I had this one woman, she's so great. She says, okay, my kids just left. My husband was gone 10 years ago. I haven't had sex for 15 years. And I want to make sure there's no cobwebs down there. And I want to make sure all my parts work. And she's like, so I just want to get to know what's happening down there. And so we did. So we learned about all of her parts. And then she, I think then she came in on her third vulva mapping. She wasn't quite sure if she was reaching climax. And so by this time she knew enough about her body, and she did her what we call orgasmic yoga practice, which is mindful masturbation homework. She would report into me on that. And so she was incorporating enough of the embodiment. So once you do enough of the steps, then we can do what's called more of a tau erotic massage, where the idea is, okay, it's kind of like the grand finale of sexological bodywork, where you're bringing in all of these elements. You know about all your different pathways because you've been practicing them at home. And then we can bring you to like a big climax. And she wasn't quite sure if she was getting there. And then when we did, she's like, oh, then I have been getting them. Some women also, so if they don't have very many climaxes, then they make it out to be this huge thing. And it can be a huge thing. But then sometimes women get a little disappointed if they're chasing it and they're not sure if they're getting it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think having experiences, again, that aren't about chasing an end goal are vital for people, especially living in a culture that is very goal destination and orgasm oriented, as opposed to just like, I'm just here for the journey. I'm here to pay attention to every little sensation, every little touch. People just aren't accustomed to that. I'm wondering, I want to keep talking about this. And is there penis mapping? Is that a thing too?
There's penis mapping, there's anal mapping, and you can just do the whole external. We call it the rosebud because there's a lot of sensation there. And then if the body's ready or available or in the next session, then you can go inside and then you can do prostate massage and all of that for the man. Yeah.
I'm sold. I have more questions for you. We're not done yet, but I'm so excited because I actually, like, speaking from a personal level, when we did Somatica, that year, 2016, hardest year ever, but I was in my sexual prime. And I think Somatica had a lot to do with it, because I was practicing more of being embodied. And also my partner and I were having a really hard time. So it made me want to have sex with him more. Let's be honest about that. And because are you going to leave me? No, I really want to have sex with you. So there's a number of reasons why. And then I also just got really in touch with my sensuality, with my seductive side, all these things that were very authentic. And I was like, I finally got it. And then I got pregnant at the end of 2016 and had an abortion. And then there's some other things that happen around emotional trauma that since then I feel like I'm personally, you named a number of the reasons, and there's so many reasons why women would come to you for vulva mapping. And I do feel like there are parts of me that are just still turned off from having a 20-minute session in the doctor's office where they had to pull the IUD out that I had in that didn't work, that failed, and then have the abortion and then put another IUD in all in one sitting while going through emotional trauma where my partner was going in 10 days later was going to leave for 2 months and we weren't going to have contact. And then I proceeded to completely numb out emotionally because it was painful. And I think my vulva responded, and it still has been a process. And I've felt, I know all the things like you're saying, I know all the tools. April, like we learned so much and and my body has moments where it remembers and it's not locking in the way it did a while ago. And I know that I can't be set on my sexuality being what it once was. And I'm really seeing as you speak just a value in what you're talking about and what you're offering. It is so important.
And do you give an actual map, like a piece of paper?
April wants a map.
Look at the list of all the terms. These are all of our anatomy down there that we don't know.
Okay.
And then I think you guys spoke to Sherry Winston. There are her maps of her books, and then there's another book that I like called A New View. It's much more expensive than Sherry Winston's book. They're both good. They're both valuable, but they have really great pictures. So then I just give copies, so that we can kind of look at them. But while I'm working on the body, I'm not like with a piece of paper and like circle here, X marks the spot. This is your pain. We just kind of remember. And then after the session, then we'll just kind of like look at the piece of paper and say, this is the area that was troubling you.
So after people leave, this is like in office, and I think you did say that you'll work with the individual first, and then if they're partnered, then the partners can come in and you'll do a partnered session where they're both there. And are you doing vulva mapping on the female body person while the male, I'm sorry, that was assumption, while the partner watches and then maybe they start to do some things too in the session, or what does that look like?
So what that looks like is I will do a small demonstration and just kind of reconnect with the woman's body and just kind of show and ground her, and he'll just watch for a little while. But then I actually get him into the sexological bodywork stance. So how we work with our clients is once I get the client like relaxed and tapped into their parasympathetic nervous system, I do a lot of holding up on the head and up on the feet, and they'll do a body scan, how they're feeling. Then I'll say, okay, I'm gonna get up on the massage table now. And so I actually crawl up on the massage table and I straddle the massage table and I bend their leg and their legs go over me. So you're facing their body so that I can get at all the bits. So then I'll put the partner in the same position And I'll say at home, you can not wear gloves, but in here, you're going to wear gloves. So I put gloves on him. And there's something kind of like you shift it from being this goal oriented, I'm going to get you off. Like I'm going to wear gloves and I'm going to be curious. Let's see what we discover. And let's see how I can hold you. Because even just from the very beginning, like the vulva cupping, after how I get the body ready is I'll trace the hip bones. I'll hold on the hips and her body will breathe. And then she relaxes. And then I'll say, okay, I'm going to move my hands now. I'm going to cup your vulva. Is that okay? And she'll say yes. And so I cup the vulva. And I always tell people to do this before and after lovemaking.
The pussy hug.
The pussy hug. I love that. And it just really helps ground the body. It makes the pussy feel so safe and so loved and so respected. But I can learn a lot by the partner because sometimes the men will just start doing like this. And then I'll just put my hand over their hand and just hold it because their hand will start moving and just want to move fast. And men typically want to be touched the way they want to be touched, which is fast and quick, right? So a woman just likes that slowness so that she can sink deeper. And then if you actually cup the vulva and then you just start to be there, if you push into it, then I'll invite the woman, I'm like, now push back into his hand. So then you can just feel this connection. And it's really nice because when you do that, you can actually start accessing the clitoral legs, which are just aligning on the pelvic bone. And you can just kind of literally just start an arousal feeling because you're pushing into the hand. And then I just teach them finger by finger. So I don't typically, when a partner comes in, have them do the whole Mons Venus. So when a real client comes in, I'll take finger by finger all above the lips, the Mons Venus area where pubic hair used to be, right? When we all had it before we started lasering it all off.
Oh, I still have
mine too.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you, girl.
Yeah, I was like, I am not 7 years old. I keeping
need it. I totally have to have it.
Me too.
It's like my security blanket.
Oh, it's a blankie.
Yeah.
You let your family pet your blankie?
Sometimes.
I'm all in favor of keeping it because the pheromones, there's a lot of health benefits to keeping our
I'm pretty sure it protects me in a lot of ways too, not from like STDs or anything, but it protects me from chafing. It's delicate. My skin is delicate. I'm a delicate flower.
Yes, it is.
So wait, have you heard of OMGS before?
I have heard of it, but I have been dying to click on and check into it because I don't actually know what they offer. I just know that they have some really cool people associated with it.
Oh, well, maybe we can get you hooked up with a little.
We know people.
We know
okay,
people.
Dolly.
Yeah. Get hooked up. OMG, yes. So because I my next question for you is going to be, and it sounds like you want people to leave with tools, right? So they can go home and practice these touch techniques on themselves. So I'm sure that, and we can follow up after I state this, what you tell people so they can go home, whether it's partners knowing how to touch the people, the vulva, or the vulva that they are pleasing, or the vulva owner. But OMGS is one of the first things that I've seen that I felt like really was showing people how to explore different ways of touching their vulvas. But porn is just like rubbing it to the death, and books are hard to understand because we are, like you're saying, we need the experience, and we're visual people. And there's some really great sex ed videos there, but like OMGS it's research based. So I think they said 2,000 people they studied with. These are real human beings. They're all female identified, female bodied folks, and they filmed them in these little videos, or 62 videos, and it's little 3-minute videos of them. And, some of them are clothed, some of them are naked, and they're just touching themselves, not to the point of orgasm, but they're essentially saying, this is how I learned to pleasure myself this way. This is how I do it. I do it, I do swirls, or I do tapping, or I like on the left side or the right side, and I do it for X amount of time with this pressure. And then and people can watch these and see, oh, I never even thought of edging. Or I
saw some cool ones with like 2 fingers kind of massaging all the lips together. All the lips.
Or like what you're saying to the Bruschetta. I mean, someone is like, I didn't even know that pressing into this little crevice would feel pleasurable for me because I never saw that. No one ever did it to me. And if they did it, I didn't actually see what they were doing. And so they actually can see in these videos. And so we're finding that people, either you have a vulva and you want to learn how to have better orgasms, or orgasms are hard for you, or you're a vulva admirer. These videos are phenomenal. It even has little modules of actual close-ups of yonis. You can practice with the mouse, little strokes. It's amazing.
God.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh my God, OMG, yes. I know,
OMG, yes.
So they're coming out. That's season 1 is available right now. If our listeners, and Dolly will get you a hookup, but it's if you go to omgyes.com/shameless, they get $5 off, and it's a one-time fee of $39 bucks, and then you get affordable. Unlimited. Yeah, it's amazing. It's so from that transition, you're saying, if a partner comes in with their vulva that they admire, they're learning, obviously, because you're showing them. But so how are people leaving with these tools from your office or your whatever you call your sexy workspace to go home and continue the practices for more orgasmic potential?
Well, what I like to tell them is, how can you take this like lab experience and go home and practice and play some more? So it's this idea that, can arousal happen? Can it lead to something? Sure, it can. But when you kind of take that off the agenda, then you can really just discover some stuff. I mean, I recently went to see my mentor, Ellen Heed. I was having so much pain right after the holidays earlier this year. And I seriously, I couldn't, I was like, wow, you have to take your penis out of me because I cannot handle this. Mm-hmm. And I did some of my own little remediation, all the stuff that I knew, but I was like, I got to go see Ellen. And as she was vulva mapping me, my obturator internus was super inflamed.
What's that?
So it's part of your pelvic bone. So I'm going to just stand up. So I'm right on this inside. Mm-hmm. I was on top of her. And then she goes, okay, bring your leg in. She pushed into me on the inside of my vagina, kind of like 4 o'clock. And then she had me bring my leg in closer to her. And as soon as I brought in my leg, I was like, oh my God. And not OMG, yes. It was like, OMG, no. That hurt.
That's good.
And she's like, oh, that's your obturator internus. And so we can, for stress, over drinking from the holidays, whatever, I was just holding a lot more inflammation in this particular area. The obturator internus is part of our pelvic bone, and so the tissue surrounding that. I also had just joined a gym. I was doing all those like exercises, so she's like, well, maybe your body's building muscle like really fast. So there was all of these things. So I just did lots of remediation, and again, her being in there. But guess what I did? I took some of my own homework, and I got my husband, Jason, on the massage table to do vulva mapping and remediation.
Shout out to Jason.
Good work, Jason. That's awesome.
So he did the homework, and that helped you to release some of the pain and the tension?
Yes.
Go ahead. I have so many questions.
Because clients came to me, they were this amazing clients, married over 30 years, and she was postmenopausal, and she was having so much bleeding after penetration. And he says, we've gone to all these doctors. We found you. Can you help us? And she was not a person who wanted to do a lot of self-touch. It just was not part of her menu choices. And so I taught him from the very beginning how to vulva map her. And I said, okay, no penis and vagina. Barely touching her. She was like a 15 on a scale of 1 to 10. Everything was so tender. No lubrication. Her tissues were thinning. It happens after menopause on many women. He committed to me that he would give her 4 to 5 vulva mappings a week. I said, do this for 4 to 6 weeks. And then her homework, if you want to know, I know you mentioned, Amy, about how to get castor oil inside. Get an organic tampon without an applicator. It has to be organic. And soak it in the castor oil and then put it inside of you for like 20 minutes. So when you feel some soreness, or even after like a lot of intense sex for the weekend or something, just, freaking spin class. I don't know if you're feeling sore down there and you just need a little extra, you can always just do an external massage with castor oil and then just get an organic tampon for like 20 minutes. So she did that. And they called me 6 weeks later and he said, we did our homework. There was no more pain when I was touching her and doing the vulva mapping. So we attempted penetration. There's pleasure, no pain. We want more. They came in for like a 2-day intensive and we did lots of somatica stuff. We did all of these things. And she said, I never knew sex could be so fun. It was just my wifely duty. And oh my God, thank you for helping me. And they were like my favorite clients. And so I was like, I'm going to assign my own husband the same homework that I assigned this man. and I got better.
And that's life-changing for you to be even a part of that. That changes your life too. You must feel so good about what you do. And that leads me to my next question, because I know there's a lot of listeners out there that don't have access to an amazing Dolly Josette. What can they do? Are there tips? Are there, if they don't have access to a sexological body worker or someone that's able to do vulva mapping, what can these people do?
Well, I'm not sure when it's going to be available, but I'm hoping within the end of the spring, early summer, I will have a bit of a video called Touch, Feel, Connect. It's going to be part of my pleasuremuse.com website, where I actually filmed Jason doing the remediation on me.
God, shout out to Jason again.
Yeah.
Jason, your vulva's on there?
No, it's interesting. It's interesting because the one day he was doing, I was like, you look really hot. Can I get it from the massage table and just take a picture of you? And he was so embodied doing this. I hit record. You see my knee, but you see our interaction. And I'm like teaching and coaching from the table. It's actually so intimate. And that's what I want to get across, is to be able to take like agendaed eroticism off the table and to say, you know what, we have some parts that we just need to look at and we need to love on and we need to understand. And when you can feel that, your connection goes even deeper. But then he said, I'm not a sexological body worker. I'm your husband. I can bring some erotic energy in. And so then there was some playful interaction with us and it was really awesome. And so then this idea of like, why don't I teach couples this? Because you're right. Not everybody's going to be able to go to a sexological body worker. And so then what I'll do is I'll put that up as just like, people sign up and they'll see these videos. And then I am going to have an online course where it's step-by-step how to teach vulva mapping. But for what a woman can do right now at home is just to start to know her parts. I could send you all a list of just all the names of the anatomy or the books that we're talking about with pictures, and just getting out there. Even if you just take your 2 fingers and you just start to do a little upside down V and go on the outer lips. And we say outer lips and inner lips as opposed to majora minora, because some outer lips and inner lips are not majora minora. Some are bigger and smaller. So we just say outer and inner.
Or they're like April and they're like, which lip did I get punctured? And I've never even like looked up.
Right.
I know the answer.
Well, this makes me want to find the capital of my vulva.
Yeah.
Where's the capital of my vulva? Or
like the second major city.
Or the second, or the small town.
Where's the
small town? Sometimes like to visit. Yeah.
One of my favorite discoveries, so 2 of mine. So when I learned about my vestibular bulbs and how you said, Amy, right at the introitus, you have a lot of pleasure right there. Mm-hmm. So that's either accessing your perineal sponge, but then also the vestibular bulbs is an erectile bed. So when I started accessing that, and again, this is how a vulva mapping can then get you to visualize and feel, because you feel it. So when I can feel a finger down there, or if it's a sex toy or my husband's penis, and I can just start to visualize it gripping around it, I actually have taught myself how to have different types of climaxes where I'm like, oh my God, it released from down there. Oh my gosh, that released in the A spot, which is behind the G spot. And then what was I going to say? This client the other day, when we discovered and found her clitoral shaft, it was a huge game changer. Mm-hmm. And not every woman has it. So women, if you don't have it,
A clitoral shaft. Not everyone has a clitoral shaft.
Not everyone has it.
Oh.
So I'll work on the outer lips, then the inner lips, then we'll start to look at the introitus. And by this time, then we'll go up to the clitoris and see if she's a little bit peeked out from the clitoral hood. And there's a whole term for that, but we'll just say the clitoral hood. So some women might just have a dot. It might just be a slight discoloration. It might not actually be a protruding head with a little frenulum. Some women have a real, truly pronounced clitoral head. Everybody's different. But even if you don't have a clitoral shaft, if you push in with your two fingers like a V and you just push in against your pubic bone and you kind of roll, or you take your fingers like that, you can push against
She's pinching.
I'm pinching. I'm like on the chair trying to show them.
We can see.
Yeah.
And you like roll it, you can actually feel if you have more of a little stem, which is your clitoral staff. So you can give yourself a little hand job, a little finger job.
Oh.
So we were talking with Reed Mihalko, right? A clip. Was it Reed Mihalko? God, we've done so many podcasts in the last couple of days. We were talking about a clip boner and how clits it's all erectile tissue. But so you're saying some people, I mean, yeah, because it's all different shapes.
Connor's podcast, actually.
Yeah. Also, all different shapes and sizes. Some people will have more of a shaft, meaning they'll probably have a bigger clip owner than other folks.
Correct.
Okay.
Just like men have different size penises, we have different size shafts
Bits.
or don't have them.
The diversity of bits. Yeah.
That's right. So, and when I discovered mine, I do have a pretty pronounced shaft. And then if a woman can handle it, because some women you just go like this and their whole body's like, whoa. But if you actually can push more, or you find this little shaft and you go like that, and you can just like do a little pop, and it sends all this like electricity in my body. So when I can teach a woman that and discover that, like, I had no idea, because we just do the same motion all the time. We do the same movement. Mm-hmm. So the vulva mapping allows you to get connected with different erectile tissue so that you can then visualize it and feel it. So again, it's what I was saying earlier, this idea of say it, name it, claim it, and feel it. That's like the big takeaway, because you cannot just read about it. It's just like riding a bike. You can't explain balance to somebody. You have to feel it.
Yeah.
We need a good acronym to back that up.
Do they have one?
We can order the words and then come up. Say it, name it, claim it, feel it. I'm going to come up with some things. There's no vowels, so it's going to be difficult. However,
thank you.
I'm going to work on that.
I love it.
So how, for our listeners out there that are perhaps close, when you're in the vicinity of LA, where you're from or living, if they want to work with you or otherwise, besides pleasuremuse.com.
Do you work with people on Skype and Zoom too? Is there?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yes, I do. I do work with people on Skype and Zoom. And again, I'm trying to figure out this whole teaching of the vulva mapping, because we can do different couples here, but when I do it online, there may be a possibility to Zoom stuff where I can work on a vulva at the same time with the clients working on it. Because I definitely have clients who they just learn so much from it that they'll make themselves available for me to help other people. But this idea of coming to here, there's sexological body workers throughout the country, throughout the world. Our association is sexologicalbodyworkers.org. It's an association for certified sexological body workers. So you can check out to see if you can find some folks in your local area.
Oh, they work with you. They go to pleasuremuse.com to work.
Pleasuremuse.com. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they can do a contact form. And one thing I wanted to say earlier, you were asking about the difference between orgasm and climax, and we didn't get to that. So the idea of feeling orgasmic in your body. So even if you just take both of your hands up in front of you, and then just take one hand and just start to kind of touch the inside of the left hand and just back and forth, and just kind of notice what you're starting to feel.
It tickles.
Yeah. right? So it's just this idea of like the sensation and this awareness. And then if you pull your hand away, you kind of might feel a remnant of that tickly.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you kind of bring attention and nurture body parts, you can do this, you can continue here. So I've been able to, that I access this and I can move that tickling sensation up my arm into my neck. And then I can feel it moving down my spine, going into my tailbone. So this idea of this orgasmic quality. So we like to really distinguish that orgasm is very different than a climax, because you could smell a flower and have orgasmic like sensation. You think of the word, you think of chocolate and your mouth starts ejaculating, right? With, you know, all the yumminess, because your mouth just starts to send out all the flavors that it's craving. Now, climax is more of a physiological, spontaneous contraction, okay, of the triangle of muscles around the vaginal opening or the introitus. So that's like more of the scientific, like a climax. So you can feel just like all that yumminess in the hand, that tickling, you can feel this way. So it's like if somebody kisses you or you're rubbing, orgasmicness is just anything that you can assign pleasure to. That's like an orgasmic nature. So it's like we want to walk around in this embodied orgasmic way. Now you start to feel that, then you start feeling waves of that. And that's where it's a little different, where a woman can just feel all these waves of orgasmicness. And if our male partners join us too, they can start to feel that. And then it actually builds and builds and builds to this crescendo of this climax big release, where it's an actual contraction of the triangular muscles around your vagina open.
I think that's super. Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that. That's an important thing, because I mean, I don't know. I mean, most people these days they refer to orgasm as opposed to, I don't hear a lot of climax, but I think that's still helpful, because climax seems to be more, like you said, more physiological. You also work, because we're talking about penises. Because I think this is important. We have a lot of penis listeners who aren't. They do want to learn about themselves too. Do you work with people who are having erectile stuff, people who are having ejaculatory?
Oh, yes. Premature ejaculation, sustaining ejaculation, or not sustained ejaculation. You know,
that's a long one. Yeah,
I know. Keep going. So all the normal penis stuff, and prostate massage stuff, and just all, So I have a lot of male clients. I see singles and I see couples.
Cool. Everyone go check out Pleasure Muse. That's MUSE.com. Right? Did I do that right? Yeah. To learn more about Dolly. I mean, we're April and I are hard to please too. We're both like, all right, so wait, when can we book a session with someone up here in the Bay Area?
I know there are definitely some people. Oh gosh, I have to do another shout out to my husband. You know what he wants to do?
What?
Let's get a Sprinter and let's just tour the country and you'll see vulva mapping all over the country.
You and your husband traveling around vulva mapping. We could hold a vulva mapping clinic here in our
own Twitter. You could have your own Twitter page, just like the trucks in LA. Like, where are the vulva mappers now?
I know. Isn't that beautiful?
Oh my God. Tell Jason that I love him. I haven't actually met him. I've seen photos of him, but just tell him that we love him.
He's such a great support. I love it. If I go to Santa Cruz, I'm happy to vulva map you all, or do something at your store. I'm happy to offer that.
Your pleasure.
Yeah, I would love that.
Amazing.
And what else? But there are some great sexological body workers in your area. So I can give you some names offline, or you can look at sexologicalbodyworkers.org.
Okay.
There's plenty of us, and we just all come with lots of love.
Dolly, this has been, I'm like not even slightly exaggerating when I say amazing. And I use that word often, but not with as much power behind it as right now. I don't want it to end. I want you to be on forever, but I know
she'll be back.
You'll be back for sure. So thank you. Thank you so much, Dolly.
You are so welcome. Thank you, ladies, for what you're doing, because just talking about this and with the following that you have, I'm so proud of you girls.
But wait, there's a little bit more. As we've said on the past podcasts, for the next couple of weeks, we are going to give you all a little sneak peek into some other sex podcasts that we love and appreciate and admire. So before I give you a little intro on that, also, as I said last week, our online workshop, Wild Woman Sex, it's an online video series where you essentially get to work with April and I, is half off this month. It's all about how to be a badass in the bedroom, how to be your most erotically empowered self, all kinds of tools and tips and tricks and practices. And you can do it all at home. So go check it out at shamelesssex.com. And this little sneak peek is a podcast called the Holly Randall Unfiltered podcast, featuring, you guessed it, Holly Randall. Holly is a world-renowned erotic photographer and director, and she interviews a lot of folks who are in the adult industry, as well as folks who are not in the porn industry. And it's humorous, it's honest, it's playful, it's entertaining, and it is educational. You will learn some things. So here's a little sneak peek for you. Enjoy!
Hey guys, I'm Holly Randall, and I am an erotic photographer, director, and producer. I started a podcast called Holly Randall Unfiltered, where I interview the biggest names in the adult industry. My goal with this show is to show the world what the adult industry is really like and what really happens behind the scenes, what these porn stars are actually like as people, not just as performers, and show the world this is a real job. We actually take it seriously. And we have a lot of fun doing it at the same time. So make sure that you tune in to Holly Randall Unfiltered. You can find it anywhere you get your podcasts, on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, you name it. And come learn what the porn industry is actually like.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.